Okay, we're in. Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing all right this morning. For some reason, my GoPro would not connect this morning, so I'm live streaming just off the camera and on the computer there. But um, for anybody who's watching this a little bit later, you can always leave any comments still in the regular section and I will get back to them. But if this is your first time to the channel, just a little bit about it. So my name is Matt. This channel is Bramski Vlogs, and it focuses on skiing and living in the mountains. And today's topic is about why UK ski workers should choose Canada for 2023 and for future years. How this works, I talk about a topic for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then we open it up and we get into a bit of a Q&A, and it's pretty informal. It's laid back. It's a Sunday. It's 10 a.m. here. I know it's 6 p.m. in the UK, maybe about lunchtime for some guys in the US. And so, yeah, we just have a bit of a laid back chat here and share our passions with skiing. So I kind of wanted to make a video on this for a little while because I've now been in Canada for nearly 2 years, and after skiing and working in Europe for 2 years also, which is a very popular place for Brits to go work and ski. When you go to other places, you can't help but sort of compare and contrast. And one of the main advantages of working in Canada's ski resorts compared to somewhere like France or Switzerland, anywhere really across Europe, is just how much better the snow conditions are out here. I'm based here in Revelstoke in the heart of British Columbia. We have on average 10.5 meters of snow a winter. You contrast that with the average snowfalls in Europe, where a good season in a top resort is probably about 3 meters. The European ski scene, a lot of these big ski areas, which there's probably a lot more larger ski areas in Europe, but there's large snowmaking networks. Here in Revelstoke, we don't have that. There's a lot more terrain that you can reach from only a handful of lifts. So one of the things that stood out to me when coming over here was actually how lucky we are skiing in Europe, because there's these multi-lift networks. You can ski down one slope, get on a lift, and go to another slope. Bottom of that, you're going to find another lift, and then round the corner there's a mountain restaurant on that corner, and then a hut on the next one, and a bar on the next one. Whereas I don't really know the history too much of skiing out here in Canada, but certainly here at Revelstoke, there's a lot more focus on the skiing itself rather than an all-round experience that involves, divulging in big food, like big meals on the mountain, and then the après scene, which I'll get on into a little bit there. Depending on where you are, the seasons can be longer out here. So Revelstoke's dates for this coming winter are already confirmed as December the 2nd to April the 14th. The first year I was here, they actually opened November the 27th. Those are usually pretty fixed dates, but then if conditions allow and if the staffing allows, then that could change. But it's not changed since I've been here. You look at what the snow was like in America this year, and some of those big resorts in California, in Utah, they stayed open until late May to early June, which was phenomenal. You rarely get that in Europe unless you are on a glacier, and sort of by that time, a lot of the large working in that environment at that late on in the season isn't really that feasible for sort of workers, and you find that a lot of people tend to move off as it is anyway. But the conditions are also very, very different. Like out here in Canada, lots of tree skiing, which you very rarely get in Europe. Europe is just this massive groomer network, pisted runs, and I think that's because a lot of the skiing out there is for your families, and your people coming up for trips to get away. Whereas out here, there's a more hardcore is maybe not the right word, but there's a focus on, there's a lot more extreme skiing out this way. You might find something like that in Chamonix in Europe, but only a few places dotted around. The best thing that stood out to me since coming over here to Canada has been the atmosphere. It's incredibly friendly. It's very, very welcoming. And I think that's what makes it an ideal destination for ski workers. What I found out in Europe was that when you're working out there, it can be quite easy to go into cliques in a little way, or go into small groups, which is great. Like, you want to make friends, that's the whole point of it. But I remember my first season in Val Thorens, where there's all these different ski companies, everybody's a rep for Crystal or for Ingham's or for Ski World or something like that. And certainly in France, in the big resort, there wasn't much sort of socializing between other people like that. And it was pretty much all work and all play, and not too much, I don't know, sort of merging together, if that makes sense. I might not have put that correctly there, but I've found since being out here, it's very open. It's very, very friendly to everyone from all different countries. I guess what I mean by that is, like, especially working in France, any Brit will tell you that you often don't feel welcome by the French locals, even though you are working there. You're looking after customers that are putting money into all the local businesses. You often feel there's not that local hospitality, and hence why I think the Brits have created that quite well. It's different when you go to somewhere like Austria or Switzerland, where it's very, very open and just a lot more. Yeah, I'd say it's a lot more welcoming there. But out here, we've got Australians, we've got people from France, we've got people from the Nordic countries that come out here, we've got people from Ukraine, people from India, all these different walks of life. And especially in a small mountain town like here in Revelstoke, everything's very, very liberal, in a way that makes everybody feel accommodated and a part of the culture. Like, Revelstoke is one of these towns where everybody has moved to here at some point, so people know the deal. And the biggest opportunity as well that I think you get when you're out here is that you can explore Canada's beautiful landscape, and all the outdoor activities during your time off. I think when you're first starting out as a ski worker, as a seasonaire, as we call it, you only care about skiing and drinking. Well, I mean, that was me anyway in my first season. But as you start to get a little bit older and you start to work out a little bit more of a work-life balance, you realize that you can enjoy things and get some experience by doing things away from the mountain. And in Canada, everything is on big, beautiful highways. It's large mountainous areas with crystal blue, cold glacial rivers running through it, man-made beaches, wildlife. Like, you'll see a video in a couple of weeks where I was on a hike and bumped into a bunch of bears. Never had that experience hiking in Europe, or skiing or anything like that. Canada is a vast, wild country, and so there's a lot of unknowns, but that's also exciting. And you have a lot of time out here to explore that, which I will touch on in just a second. I knew quite clearly that I wanted to come straight to Revelstoke, but for those who want to go out and travel and see all these different places in Canada, you have that opportunity. Whereas in Europe, I think that the opportunity to actually explore while you're working is very limited, because the way the job roles in Europe are very focused on the in-resort experience, right? You were constantly at your beck and call for the customers if they wanted anything. So most of the time you were either on a slopes, or you're in the hotels, or you're in the local bar. So you couldn't necessarily maybe go to local events. Whereas like here in Revelstoke, at the end of the day, you can go to a hockey match, you can go to see some live music. And of course, there's live music in the bars in Europe, but it's just, like I say, it's all part of the drinking aspect, which, it's not as strong out here. So for a UK ski worker to be able to come out and work in Canada, you need to get yourself a work permit. This is commonly known as the work holiday visa under the IEC program. And the eligibility of this is constantly changing, but I believe it's now changed. But for the standard is that if you get this visa, it gives you 2 years to travel and work across Canada, which is fantastic, because anyone who's worked as a Brit in Europe in the last 5, 6, 7 years before Brexit, post Brexit, will tell you that you had 5 months really, and then you got out, and then you go off and you do another seasonal job. So you were very temporary, whereas here there's a lot more time to explore. Now, because this process is ever changing, I'm not going to go into the step by step. However, I have done a number of videos on my experience on this, and you can find it. There is a playlist. When this video goes out, I will put some information in the comments on this. But if you want to know what I went through, you can follow that there. Someone told me the other day that they have now actually extended it so that if a Brit applies, it potentially can be up to 3 years, which is even more amazing and giving more opportunities for you guys to go and explore and see the beautiful country, but then also figure out actually if you want to maybe build a life and build a career out in Canada, because that's what I came here to do. I didn't come here to just work a season and go. But a lot of people have started doing that here now. In the past, where you might have gone and worked a season in France, because of Brexit, because of the less jobs now there are for UK ski workers, Canada is slowly, I think, becoming a bit more appealing for Brits. Now, a couple of tips then, if you're wanting to come and work in a ski resort here in Canada, when's the best time to apply for the upcoming season, that sort of thing. A lot of the ski resort jobs out here in Canada are also very different from Europe. So I touched on things like, your ski reps and your chalet hosts, your bus drivers, that type of thing. You don't get that type of roles very much here in Canada, at least the rep and the chalet host one. There's definitely no reps. You don't have these large tour operators. And the reason why that is because for a number of years, the British market was focused on the package holidays, whereas you don't get that in Canada. People like to move around quite a lot. You want to be looking at ski jobs now. That's what you want to be doing. The typical type of jobs you're going to find out here is your bartending job. That pays a lot better here than it does out in Europe. I can tell you that now. There are people here who've been able to sustain themselves for a number of years, and they keep coming back to the bar jobs because of the tips. Big tipping culture out here in Canada. Also lifties. So people who man the lift operations throughout the winter. That's quite a popular one. They get to work on the mountain, free ski passes for the season, like desk agents. So because Canada is mostly an English speaking country, I mean, there is French as well. There is that need for these customer service roles. So there's desk roles at the resort for selling tickets, desk roles at the hotel in concierge, just on guest service agents. That's how I transitioned when I first got here. There are a couple of private lodges dotted around. I mean, Revelstoke is an example, but this is like high end, and those roles are kind of like a hybrid of chalet host with a little bit of maintenance involved. Now, if you are someone who's got a background in maintenance, electricity or plumbing or whatever, plenty of roles for you there, but it wouldn't necessary. I mean, it could be working in a hotel, but then at the same time also for construction. So I talked a little bit in the last live stream about how there's a big shortage of housing, and there's lots of construction projects going on, at least here in Revelstoke. So there's a lot of demand for jobs like electricians, plumbers, carpenters, machine drivers, like if you can drive an excavator or a snowcat for the hills. So there's a lot more emphasis on that here and they will take foreign workers. Not really much to choose from when, as a UK ski worker, you were looking to go work in Britain. So you want to be looking for these ski jobs right now, and then you want to be starting to apply come August into September is when the winter jobs are going to start to be posted on a lot of the sites out here in Canada. And when I say sites, you're going to have to go direct. There's not many of these ski recruitment sites that focus in on the wide range of jobs that are actually available here in Canada. You've got to go looking at the source. So, if you want to be a lifty or you want to be a ski instructor, your best bet is to actually go direct to the resort website. If you want to work as a maintenance person, research what construction projects are going on, what hotels are actually in the town, and reach out directly to them. I've always found that directly contacting the employees has always been the best way. You can start building up a relationship with a potential employer, even if they've not started their recruitment process yet. So the summer seasons are quite busy out here, and the summer seasons will finish end of September. So they won't actually start getting to your job applications until probably October time. So there is that wait period, and that's something you've got to also factor in when you're applying for your work permits, because there is a lot of sort of waiting and not hearing back, which can drive you crazy. I guess just a bit of building on from that, sharing my own personal experiences, having worked in Europe, having worked in Japan, and then coming here. And I find that being out here in Canada it's just a lot more peaceful. The après thing is such good fun in Europe, and it is great. I had such a good time there. But actually, when you come out here, you realize that there's a lot more focus on the skiing itself and the enjoyment of skiing, especially when you're in a remote resort like Revelstoke is. I guess if you're in somewhere like a Banff, Lake Louise, or a Sun Peaks, or a Whistler, where there's a lot bigger ski areas and a lot more people around, it maybe is a little bit more party. I had a briefing experience with that going to Big White at the start of last year, and when I saw that aspect, I kind of knew that bit I'd had my time with that. So I guess that's another thing, right, is that when you're picking a resort to go and work in and a type of job, there's a lot of factors that you have to consider when you're applying for these jobs. Is like, if this is your first time, do you want to go and work in a big party resort, or are you looking for somewhere where it's more about skiing, and it's about the big powder snow, right? And it's different depending on where you want to go. So my approach has changed over the 5 or 6 winters that I've done. It went from that party to more actually wanting to enjoy the experiences that the mountains had to offer. Going from carving up the pistes in Val Thorens and Austria to then shredding powder in Niseko and here in Revi. I know there's a couple of guys who are commenting in the live chat there. I'll get you two guys in a second, but thanks for coming on. There's 4 or 5 people watching right now, so be sure to get your questions in, and I'll come to them in a little bit. So, any advice for UK ski workers adapting to the Canadian work environment and the culture, and tips to make the most of the experience? The best thing about Canadians is just how polite they are. They are so friendly. Anything that you've heard about them is exactly correct. They're very laid back, very, very peaceful people. and liberal, as I kind of touched on before. So, you know, Brits, we can be quite loud. We like to have our drink, and there isn't that big a drinking culture out here. I mean, that, you know, there's local breweries here, there's local distilleries, and you know, it's all a lot of quality, and there's some pretty cool places to go out and hang out, you know. But I think I would encourage Brits to be very open-minded out here and be willing to engage with a lot of the local Canadians to learn, you know, about actually what makes a good time out here. So in our small mountain town, you know, one of the best nights out is going to the ice hockey at 7 p.m. and watching the local guys straight out of college, like 19, 20-year-olds, go and smash each other around. The Revelstoke Grizzlies are one of the best teams around, and then going out and having a few drinks. So having a few beers at the ice hockey, that's our idea of a pretty decent night out here. And then going into some of the local bars. And yeah, just beside that, everything is very outdoorsy out here, you know, like there's a big ski touring culture out here. It's a popular destination for paragliders, for snowmobilers, very, very diverse. And there's a lot more opportunities. So again, like, open yourself up to maybe trying something new when you're out here. And everybody has their own story of how they ended up in these ski resorts. So, you know, it's just be willing to kind of take that all in, and learn about it. So yeah, I mean, that is kind of a brief overview there of why I think, you know, it's a popular place for UK ski workers to choose Canada. Europe is now very, very difficult for Brits to go out and work in. I know that they've started introducing some visa programs post Brexit to allow people, but I just don't think the jobs are there as much anymore now. I could be wrong. Joe, I know you're watching, and I know you're going out to France. I don't know what your experience was looking for these jobs when you were picking Samoyen, but yeah. So in summary, coming out here to Canada is great because the better snow conditions. Sometimes you get a longer ski season, and very, very different terrain, which I think makes for a better ski experience. Friendly Canadians, people from all over the world. There's no prejudices, no cliques that you might get within Europe. You're made to feel welcome by the local communities, which is not always guaranteed depending on where you go in Europe. Beautiful landscape here in Canada that you can explore. There's so many more outdoor activities for visitors, but to do all of that, you need to get yourself a work holiday visa under the IEC program. So anyone who wants to know about that, I would highly recommend checking out the Moving to Canada website. It gives some great content in there, and also giving the work holiday visa videos that I've posted a watch there, and they can tell you what the experience was like. It is changed. It's always changing. The requirements are always changing. But if you're under 30, you stand a pretty good chance, and I believe you might get up to 3 years now as a Brit. Okay, so now it's over to you guys. Let's open it up to a bit of a chat. Any questions you guys have? What have your own experiences been? And who's looking forward to winter? Let's see here. We got Gavin. I know, Gavin, you're with us just at the start. Hey, Matt, what's up? I'm good, mate. Had a lot on my plate recently, but enjoying these live streams, and still no news on the work on the LMIA, that sort of the bridge over to the permanent residency. That's ticking down. I kind of gave my employer another nudge this week, and so yeah, gonna have to see how the next week goes, and then I might have to say something else again here. But things are good here. We had a bit of a fire threat, I know, last weekend. That's died down. We've had some rain, much needed rain here, and just chilling today is my day off, so gonna head over to the beach later on this afternoon and maybe go for a hike tomorrow. Joe's here. Sup, man? How are you, mate? What's new with you? Maybe a bit of a quiet Sunday today, I think, guys. It doesn't look like we've got any questions or comments this week in the. Oh, here we go. What have we got? Stay positive, Matt. Getting permanent residency would be amazing. I just got COVID yesterday, so I'm relaxing watching the stream. Well, first of all, buddy, sorry that you got COVID. Yeah, it's a bummer, mate. So hopefully this is giving you a bit of a nice distraction and chilling you out there. Yeah, trying to stay positive with it. I guess it's just sort of stressing me out a little bit because it's completely out of my control. It's actually out of my employer's control as well. It's literally, we're just waiting for a piece of paper right now. But at the end of the day, it's like my life and my career, which I was just chatting to my folks about this earlier, and it's like there gets to a point where I would have to start working out some things if this is not going to pull through. Like one of the things I probably want to ask my employer next week is, look, do I need to apply for a bridging visa? Because we discussed that, but it wasn't the map that we had planned out, so I didn't go down that route. And so I'm like, because it's effectively 8 weeks from now, and I have a month's notice that I would have to give on my room that I'm renting, plus there's my car which I purchased. That was quite a big life decision that I made as an investment for sort of trying to build a career and be able to commute here. All my belongings, and then there's things like flights and insurance and all these things which I'm sure are going to be fine. But when everything's up in the air and you have no control of it, your mind immediately just like starts thinking about that. I'm like, sort of, it kind of is similar to what I was feeling for 2 weeks back in January, where I was like, oh no, here we go again. Like, got to start planning what I'm going to be doing come September, when I might have to sort of move back to the UK and go again. And yeah, I honestly don't know what I would do actually if I had to come back to the UK, because I turned 30 in October, so I guess the immigration avenues to move somewhere else are quite limited. Yeah, but I'm going to try and not think that too far ahead. Things are going pretty well in Revelstoke. I've got a lot as well invested, so like, in terms of being a part of the community, I can understand that when people come to Canada, they don't want to leave. It would be a shame for someone like you not to be able to stay. Thanks, man. That means a lot. I never would have thought that I would have come to Canada, but having come here, like after a few months, I was like, why didn't I think of this place before? And I guess from a UK perspective, it's just the distance, and when you're in Europe, all these resorts are so much more closer together, and everybody can list off 5 to 10 resorts of the best places to go. It's like, oh, next year go and do a season at go over to Austria next year, or this time you should go to the Three Valleys, to go to Maribel, or go to Teen, and that community is pretty tight knit out there. But it's not, I didn't find it easy to lay out a path of a career progression there, whereas like here, coming here 2 years gives you a lot of time to get settled, and then you have this permanent residency option afterwards, which I didn't know. I didn't hear that a peep. No one told me anything about that. Like, I worked for one of the biggest tour operators in Europe, Crystal, and no one ever mentioned anything about permanent residency. No manager or anything like that. It's like this, on everybody's lips out here. So yeah, it's like a few months in, and I didn't want to leave. and I still don't want to leave. And actually, it's quite funny. We had an Australian couple turned up the other day. They came down to our cricket practice. They just moved from Banff, and Banff is really popular with a lot of workers, but it's apparently like always super busy and very cramped. There's no space. So coming to Revelstoke is like a totally different kettle of fish. You come here and you get very quiet, and they're like, oh, but Australia's great, we'll probably go back out there after this winter. And I'm like, wait until you've done a winter here. When you've spent some time here, then you won't want to leave. There's a common saying here in Revelstoke, and it's called Revel stuck. So the notion of coming out here and then just, that's it. Revelstoke gets you. Because there's nowhere nearby as well, right? But because there's actually so much on offer in this small little town, you're in the heart of this mountain where there's incredible skiing, deep snow, all these different activities, this wildlife, the whole experiences, and the community feel. That's the biggest USP here, is the community feel. I never felt that in Europe. I never felt like there was a community. You knew that as soon as like the winter was over, the place was going to become just a ghost town. In most ski towns, mountain towns in Europe, that's the feel. I'm quite lucky that if I decide to make the move out west, that I don't need to worry about any residency or visa. All I would need is a job, a place to stay, and bags to pack. Yeah, that's a nice feeling, mate. And I mean, do you know of many people that want to move out west from sort of where you are? Is it an appeal for people on the East Coast? Like, I know you don't get as much snow out that way, and there's not as big ski areas on the East Coast. Like, we do get people from Quebec who come out here. They're probably the largest population from within Canada that come this way, plus the Albertans that come for the sledding, the snowmobiling. All I would need is a job, a place to stay, and bags to pack. Yeah, I know we were chatting about different job options for you, like, the other way. And so, yeah, it's also when people are coming in, people arrive in town a lot earlier than you would in the winter. Like in Europe, sorry. Like, I remember working in Europe as a Brit, you would turn up maybe just 2 weeks before the winter season started. But because of that shortage of accommodation, people, and that's another thing actually I probably haven't touched on, is that, if you find these jobs, coming out here to Canada, you need to be making sure you've got accommodation lined up end of July, August, definitely August at the latest. Just to give yourself the best chance. If you leave things to late October, November, it's slim pickings and the prices will be sky high. Yeah. See if we've got anything else here. Joe, don't know if you're still with us, man. What's up with you? What have you been up to this week? We normally don't get snow that stays until January, and on the west coast of our province, winter is much better, and our highest mountain is 2,000 feet. Okay, what's that in meters? Sorry, that's the other thing about us Brits. We're like, okay, so 2,000 feet is 609 meters above altitude. Okay, so yeah, that's not, I mean, yeah, that's still not that high, but yeah. I mean, like, for example, the reason why I say that, so the village that I stayed at in my first season, Val Thorens was the village was 2,400 meters above sea level. So in feet, that is 7,870, give or take. So you do get some pretty higher altitudes in Europe. Maybe not as much in all these ski hills in Canada, but especially here in BC, that snow quality is just way better. And the snow right now in Europe seems to just come later and later. I mean, they've had a string of horrible starts, right? I mean, I know here in Canada we didn't have the best of winters last year, but you know, you start getting some snow here in Revelstoke around mid November, all the way down in the valley. And actually, Revelstoke as a village is not that high. Revelstoke is like 450 meters, and then the top of the sub peak I think is 2,200 meters here. So altitude is pretty good on the hill. But yeah, it's just the weather system that brings that good snow here. Hoping we get an absolute monster winter this year. As good as it was on my first year. We had there was that 2.5-3 week period come middle of February this year where everything was just, felt like a proper winter. Because at the start last year, I was taking it pretty easy. I kind of turned a brand new set of skis into rock skis, which I did not intend to do. There isn't going to be a live stream next week, guys, just to heads up. I'm actually off playing a match next weekend. So I'll be having a week off on that. But then hopefully should be back the following Sunday for a live stream. Sorry for hogging the chat. Do you ever find the altitude affects you while skiing, such as you get tired faster? Don't apologize for hogging the chat, Gavin. The more people in the chat, the better, but you're the one who's posting, so I'm going to highlight and respond, so no problem. I did find the altitude affect me in my first season for the first couple of weeks. And what I mean by that was, I think there's a standard altitude where it's meant to start affecting you, which is around that 2,000 meter mark. So when the village was at 2,400, and those first 2 weeks we're not looking after guests yet, but we're walking around, we're getting to grips with town, and you're walking up and down all these stairs and everything, and it did affect you from a breathing capacity. That's what I remember. First couple of weeks it was like trying to get acclimatized to that, and a little bit of headache, but and also you got to be aware of alcohol, especially for skiers, the tourists. A lot of drinking on the slopes, big party atmospheres on the slopes in these big areas in Europe, and that can affect you out there. I've not found that effect anywhere else since. I've not really been anywhere that high since, really. But yeah, when you're pushing up to 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, yeah, that can do. Like I remember skiing on the Glacier at Teen, and the top of that glacier there is 3,400 meters, I believe. And yeah, you might feel a little bit lightheaded, and so just important to stay hydrated in that. But it can affect you, yeah, for sure. I don't think there's much glacial skiing out here in Canada. You don't get that. Whereas like in Europe, that's a real thing in places like in the Austria, you've got like Meyerhofen and Zalmsee at the Capron in the Maischkogel, Saas-Fee in Switzerland, Teen in France. So you can be skiing actually, although it's a different experience, but you can, in some places you can still be skiing in like May, June, July, and then they'll open up again in October and November, mainly for the racers to do their training. But yeah, but you won't get sort of holiday reps and jobs for winter jobs staying available that late. It's just like, if you go for a hike and there's a glacier that's open, you might do a day or two skiing, which I have done in the past. There are a couple of videos on that if you dive back into the archives. I have no idea why the GoPro wouldn't work this morning. Yeah, I'd had a good setup going, and was not was not playing ball this morning, so sorry about that, guys. All right. If anybody, does anybody have any more questions here, guys? Anybody got any anything at all about maybe, for the Brits or just generally working in Canada? Audio and video seems fine to me. Thanks, man. Yeah, well, right now I'm just using the webcam off the Mac, and then I actually have a mic here hooked up with a little bit of a fast track audio interface. So yeah, I'm glad that quality is pretty good. Always trying to sort of find little bits to improve with this, and yeah, getting into the groove a bit with these live streams. Was thinking actually last night about how again this would work in the winter, because like one of the guys, Brad, who has come on the channel a couple of times, he's a couple of hours ahead, and we were talking about like time differences, and it's like, I want to be able to capture the North American audience with these, and it's like, well, on a ski day, how's that going to play out if I do it maybe at the end of the day, because you want to get out and shred some pow and get some good ski footage to then bring you for the Tuesday vlog. So I'll have to have a think on that one. Also, I don't know whether I'll be able to be live streaming outside come winter on the deck here. You might see me all like wearing 3-4 layers, but the thing is, this is like a really nice space. My room is a basement suite, so the light is not going to be good in there to do a live stream. I don't have any space in there for like a desk or anything. So yeah, further example of the constraints you have of accommodation here in Revi, but you make do, right? So I think I'm probably going to leave it there, guys. If anybody doesn't have any more, I mean, anybody who's watching this after we've gone live, please do put your comments in the comment section below. I'll always come back to those. Got a fun vlog to bring you on Tuesday out at its normal time. Something a little bit different from what I've been doing so far. If you've seen the community post the last couple of days, you might get a hint of what that is. But thanks very much for watching. If this is your first time to the channel and you did enjoy this, please like the video and do subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all future live streams. 4.5 hours difference from here to Revi, right? So if I'm like live streaming on a winter night at 6, that's like 10 p.m, right? Yeah, it's a tricky one to balance. 3:13, right? Okay, yeah. So I think that's more than 4 then, isn't it? What are we on now? Because it's 10. Oh, right. No, I see what you mean, because you got that extra half an hour. Yeah. Well, in the winter, at least I'll be able to, I mean, maybe I can do it around 5 or 6, 5:30, around that time. The mountain's going to be closed early season around 3:30, and then it'll close at the latest at 4:30. So gives everybody time to, pull up a beer maybe do it on like a Saturday evening before I go out and actually ski on my days off on the Sunday, Monday. Maybe that'll work for you guys. Yeah. Anyway, something to think about. Anyway, hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend, guys. Thanks for watching. Cheers, Gavin, and cheers, Joe, for commenting in there. Gavin, can you send me an email, please, mate? Because you're the winner this week of a goggle sock for engaging, mate. So let me just quickly type in my email address for you. You've won goggle sock. So there you go, mate. Send me an email to that, and I'll send you a goggle sock. Joe, you were the winner last week, mate. I don't think I've had an email from you yet. So if you're still up on the live right now, make sure you send one in, and I'll get these sent out to you. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Cheers, Gavin. Cheers, Joe. Cheers, everyone. And I will see you next time.